What is happening, Chiefs Kingdom? Gary here. And we're on the second part of our journey where we're working to try and make a prediction for the Chiefs off the 2022 season. So, during the first part, the last video, we talked about how defenses will have an impact on the Chiefs in 2022. In this video, we're going to look for precedent where a team lost a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver while also having a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. What happened to those teams? Were there any teams that had that situation occur? You may also be wondering, why am I wearing an Albert Wilson jersey? You'll find out why at the end of this video. Let's go, RGR football. So, the goal of what we're doing here is to find similar situations where a team had a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback and also a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver, where that wide receiver left the team in their prime. So, a similar situation to Tyreek Hill leaving the Chiefs while he's still in his prime. We're going to use what we know from these situations, similar situations, and try to make a plan for the future. There were four teams that I found during the passing era of the NFL that fit this criteria, while only two of them truly fit maybe not exactly, but very similarly to what the Chiefs are going to see in 2022. So, what are the similarities that we're looking for? We're looking for a team that lost a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver during the prime of their career. They also had an offseason to prepare to replace that wide receiver. And then that team also had Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in their prime. Like I said, there were four teams that we found. Two of them we had to cut, and two of them we kept. The first team that I found that we had to cut was the Indianapolis Colts. And the two players that were brought up were Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning was drafted by the Colts in 1998. When he was drafted, Marvin Harrison was already there. Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison had a wonderful relationship, especially on the field. And Harrison was injured in 2007 at the age of 35, and he was never able to reclaim his former glory. Obviously, the reason that Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning didn't make the cut was because Harrison just aged and he retired due to getting older and getting a little banged up. So he never left the Colts in his prime. He left whenever he was an older player and he just retired naturally. The second team that came close were the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers had Ben Roethlisberger and Hines Ward. Similar situation to the Colts. Hines Ward just got older and he retired from the NFL. At the age of 34, Ward's production dropped off. And just like with Harrison, he chose to retire. Hines Ward retired after the 2011 season, but because he wasn't in his prime when he left the Steelers, I chose not to include this pairing. The next pairing that I found that truly was similar to what the Chiefs are going to experience in 2022 were the Green Bay Packers. And the pairing that we're going to have here, or that we're going to show here, was the pairing between Brett Favre and Sterling Sharpe. Sterling Sharpe was a phenomenal wide receiver for the Packers, and he played with Brett Favre through the beginning of Brett Favre's career in Green Bay. He was such a great player that during Shannon Sharpe's Hall of Fame induction speech, Shannon Sharpe said the following. He said that he was the only player to wear the gold jacket who also had a member of his family who was better than him. He was the first player to get the gold jacket, make it to the Hall of Fame, while also being the second best player in his family. That's how highly Shannon Sharpe thought of his brother. And I have a lot of respect for Shannon Sharpe as a commentator. While he played for the Broncos, not so much. But Sterling Sharpe was a tremendous wide receiver, and then at the age of 29 and during the 1994 season in Week 16, he was blocking on a run play versus the Atlanta Falcons, and a defensive back knocked him one in the neck. It was more like a jab to his neck. The defensive back hit him with his fist or his fingers or his hand, and Sterling Sharpe went to the ground. And it was an unusual injury because during the broadcast, the commentators thought it was a stinger. They just thought it was something Shannon Sharpe would be, or Sterling Sharpe would be able to recover from really easily. But that neck injury ended up ending Sterling Sharpe's career at the age of 29. He was still in his prime, still putting up monster seasons, and who knows how much more Sterling Sharpe could have done had he not had that injury. So Sharpe was with Favre for 3 seasons prior to his injury and departing from the Packers. So 1994 was Sharpe's last season, and 1995 was Favre's first season without Sharpe. So the question that Chiefs fans are most likely to wonder is, well, what happened to the Packers offense? What happened to Brett Favre after they lost this Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver during his prime? So in 1995, Brett Favre threw 27% more passing yards than during his average season with Sterling Sharpe on the field. So he actually threw for more passing yards without Sharpe than during his career with Sharpe. In terms of touchdowns, interceptions, and points per game, Favre threw 63% more touchdowns in 1995 than he did during his career while playing with Sterling Sharpe. He saw a 24% decrease in interceptions in 95 and a 21% increase in points per game in 1995. So, in all key metrics, statistically, Brett Favre improved in 1995. He got better without Sterling Sharpe. In terms of passer rating, Favre saw a 20% increase in 1995. So, every single statistical metric, Favre played better after losing his Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. And why was that? Well, that was because guys like Robert Brooks and Antonio Freeman stepped up. It took Antonio Freeman 2 or 3 years before he really came into his own, and the 1995 season was Robert Brooks's. He dominated that year. He had almost 1,500 yards receiving that year, and it was during the mid 90s whenever 1,500-yard receivers weren't an entirely commonplace thing. So what happened to the Packers in 1995 was that they had guys step up. If you think about the Chiefs in 2022, you have to wonder who are going to be the guys who step up for the Chiefs. And in my opinion, as far as receivers go, the player who I feel is most likely to have a Robert Brooks type season and have a whole ton of yards is Juju Smith-Schuster. That's nothing against MVS. That's nothing against Sky Moore. Nothing against McCole Hardman. It's just that I feel this way because Juju Smith-Schuster has had a monster season in terms of receiving yards. Now, Smith-Schuster has had a couple of seasons here where he's had injuries and he hasn't put forth the best numbers. But 3 or 4 seasons ago, Smith-Schuster had over 1,400 yards receiving. So he's done it before. That's why I think if there is a player who has a wide receiver for the Chiefs who has a monster season in terms of yards and production in 2022, my guess would go towards Smith-Schuster because he's done it before. And towards the end of Roethlisberger's career, he just didn't have the ability to throw the ball downfield. He wasn't quite as productive as he had been before, and the Chiefs' offense is not going to have that problem with Patrick Mahomes. He's going to throw the ball downfield, and I think that Smith-Schuster has the best chance of being the player on the Chiefs' current roster who is a wide receiver and puts together a monster season in 2022. The next team that I found a similar situation to the Chiefs in 2022 are the New England Patriots with Tom Brady and Randy Moss. Now, Moss was injured during one of his seasons with the Patriots where he missed significant time. So I threw those 2 seasons out statistically and only focused on the seasons where Tom Brady and Randy Moss were both healthy during the entire season. So what happened to Brady after Moss departed in 2011? Well, Brady saw a 14% increase in passing yards in 2011 after losing Randy Moss. In terms of touchdowns, interceptions, and points per game, he threw the same amount of touchdowns during his average season with Randy Moss as he did in 2011 without Randy Moss. He threw 85% more interceptions, which is a big number. But you have to remember that Tom Brady wasn't throwing hardly any interceptions during that time in his career, and he hasn't really had an interception problem throughout his whole career. So an 85% increase for Tom Brady is going from roughly 6 or 7 interceptions a year with Randy Moss to 6 or 7 interceptions per year with Randy Moss to 12 interceptions per year, or 12 interceptions in 2011. And in terms of points per game, the Patriots offense scored 1% more points per game in 2011 than they did during their tenure with Randy Moss. And then in terms of passer rating, Tom Brady saw a 1% increase in passer rating in 2011 without Randy Moss. So to recap, these two quarterbacks who had extremely similar circumstances to Patrick Mahomes in 2022, both of them performed better. Brady didn't quite have the same jump in production that Favre had, but both quarterbacks played better, and neither quarterback saw a major drop in production. So this is good news for Chiefs fans because there's precedent for a team losing a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver while also having a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback stick around. Neither of those teams fell off a cliff. In fact, both of them played better. The Packers played significantly better. The Patriots played marginally better. And who was it that filled in for the Patriots after Randy Moss left? That was Wes Welker. So both teams had players step up and fill the void that superstar Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver left. So you have to ask yourself, who's going to step up for the Chiefs? Somebody has to step up, and it's going to be interesting to see that unfold in 2022 to see who the guy is for the Chiefs to fill that void that Tyreek Hill left. Looking at the averages of improvement for Favre after Sharpe and Brady after Moss, combined, both of them together saw a 20% increase in yards, a 31% increase in touchdowns, a 31% increase in interceptions, not good, a 10% increase in rating, and an 11% increase in points per game. So what does that say about the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill? To me, it says that there's a precedent set for Mahomes and the Chiefs offense to play better in 2022 than they did during the Tyreek Hill era in Kansas City. The precedent is there. The Chiefs can play better in 2022 offensively, and I don't believe that they're going to fall off the face of the earth offensively. If you extrapolate the averages from the Brady and Favre eras without their Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers and apply them to the average Patrick Mahomes season with Tyreek Hill, you get some absolutely absurd numbers. For instance, a 20% increase in yards for Patrick Mahomes over his average with Tyreek Hill would lead to a 5,700 yard season, which is an NFL record. A 50 touchdown season, 12 interceptions, a rating of 116, and the Chiefs offense scoring 33.7 points. Now, I do not think that the Chiefs offense will take this large of a jump in 2022, but I do think the Chiefs offense will play better without Tyreek Hill than with him. And that's nothing against Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is an extraordinary player. He was electric to see. He's still going to be electric for the Dolphins. Nothing against Tyreek. Love him. Loved him for the Chiefs. But because the precedent was set by Brady and Favre, I think that there's a little history there to say that the Chiefs' offense can, and I believe likely will, improve next season in 2022. Now, while I was sifting through this data, it's sometimes not the data that you're looking for. It's the opposite of what you're looking for that speaks louder. than the stats that you're trying to hunt down. So sometimes it's what's not said by the data that ends up being more interesting or more profound. And when I say that, I'm referring to the number of Hall of Fame quarterbacks who played their careers without a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. You've got guys like Dan Marino, Phillip Rivers, Fran Tarkenton, Len Dawson, although Otis Taylor was a beast. He was amazing. Drew Brees, Roger Staubach, and not to mention tons of quarterbacks who have played an MVP season where they won the MVP award and didn't have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback or Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver on their team. Guys and gals, Mahomes is going to be fine. There's no doubt in my mind that losing Tyreek Hill is not going to throw a wrench in this Chiefs offense. In fact, after looking at the precedent set by Brady and Favre, I think that the Chiefs offense has a good chance of playing better in 2022 than they did during the Tyreek Hill tenure. And so now to speak to why I'm wearing this Albert Wilson jersey, there's proof that Mahomes has put forth that should get rid of any fear we have for his performance in 2022, if you had any. And that is that in week 17, during Mahomes' rookie season, playing with second stringers on offense versus a good Broncos defense who was playing a majority first stringers, Albert Wilson had 10 receptions for 147 yards in that game, as well as many receptions that led to a late victory for the Chiefs. So Mahomes is going to cook no matter who's in the kitchen. No matter what the ingredients are, he's going to put forth together a great meal. And no doubt in my mind, the Chiefs are going to be good offensively in 2022. I don't think the Chiefs are going to see a drop-off. So when I make my prediction, I'm going to include what we did in the first video, which is looking at defenses and how they impact the Chiefs during the Mahomes-Reed era. And then also we have precedent set where teams actually got better after losing a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver when they have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. And then we also have the whole mountain of quarterbacks who've had great seasons, great careers without ever having that blue chip wide receiver, Hall of Fame wide receiver. So rest assured, if someone tells you that the Chiefs offense is going to take a step back because of losing Tyreek Hill, I disagree with that. I don't believe that. I think they're going to keep moving forward. And things are going to be just fine in 2022. With that, that's the end of our video. We'll jump into the third part of this series next video. That's when I'm going to make the prediction for how the Chiefs offense will fare in 2022. I feel like we have enough background information. As always, go Chiefs. Make sure that you like and subscribe. It's been wonderful talking to you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.